Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Greatly Destined podcast. This is episode 5. Today, I have a very special guest with me here in the podcast studio. She's a good friend of mine. Her name is Hetzel. She is the founder and CEO of Hetzel Productions, a photography company here in Milwaukee. And you started that all by yourself, didn't you now?
Yes, I sure did.
Talk about how that started.
Sure. So honestly, I got interested in photography when I was a junior in high school. I had like extra classes to take and I wanted to take something fun that I thought I might enjoy. So I ended up taking a photography 101 class my junior year. Really enjoyed it. Loved my photography teacher. She was awesome. Everything I learned was just like really exciting and interesting to me. And then I took another class my senior year. And then after graduating, I had no idea what I wanted to do. Like I had my guidance counselor constantly asking like, what college are you going into? Like, and I didn't know. Like I told her like, I don't think I want to go to college. That I never felt like that was the right route for me. So after high school, I took my first photography job as a life touch photographer, figuring like I'll just do this until I figure out what I actually want to do with my life. Little did I know that like 4 years later, I decided that photography is a big part of what I want to do with my life. So sometimes it just takes some like trial and error. Like they expect us to have it all figured out like so early in our lives, and you have so much time to decide and figure that out along the way. And like I'm still young and I know I still have time to take different paths and discover different experiences.
Why do you think they do that? Why do you think we're trained to go to college right after high school? I mean, I remember that time of high school where we were seniors and the number one question you were getting was, so where are you going to college? Where are you going to college? And nobody asked you, like, what do you want to do with your life? I feel like those are two different questions. Why do you think people don't ask the youth what they want to do with their life as opposed to where are you going to college?
Sure, that's a great question. I think a big part of it is like parents and the older generation wanting the younger generation and kids to have a place that they're going and not end up living in their parents' basement till they're 30 and just having no direction, which is fair. But at the same time, they also fail to realize that there are so many other options other than just taking a typical college course, college career, college pathway. So yeah, like you said, I think it's more important to see how do you want to live your life, what you want to do versus just like what college are you going to, because that's not always necessary. And something that I read in a book and my mentors taught me a few years ago is to really focus on where you want to end up, like kind of like more the final destination, and then work backwards from there. So I really stepped back and took a look at my life and thought like, what kind of lifestyle do I want to live? Like how often do I want to travel? How much do I want to work? What do I want to be doing while I'm working? And determine that first, like my ideal, my dream lifestyle, and then work backwards from there. And I think a lot of people do it the opposite way, where like they decide that they want to be a teacher or something.
Yeah.
And that's great. That's a great career. And if that's really what you want to do, good for you. But you also have to think that if you go to college and become a teacher, you have to be okay with the salary of making a teacher, which will also determine like where your kids are going to go to school because of the amount of money that you're making. It's going to determine a lot of factors in your life that you have to be okay with.
You're
like,
putting your place in a certain demographic without giving yourself a lot of room for upward mobility. Mm-hmm. It's like you're putting that ceiling over your potential before you even find out what your potential is.
Exactly.
18 is young.
It is.
It really is young looking back at it. Were you always like the ambitious type growing up?
To a certain extent, yes. Like, I think very early on, I kind of, like, knew what I did and didn't like. Mm-hmm. So when it came to something that, like, interests me and I enjoy doing, I would be very ambitious at doing it. But if it was just something I wasn't interested in, then I would kind of just put the bare minimum in to
That's exactly
get done
how
what
I
need
was in
to
high
get
school.
done.
I was trash academically in high school, but I was always very, like, smart entrepreneurially. Mm-hmm. Broadcasting is something I always wanted to do. I went to college for journalism with the goal of becoming a news reporter, and that's something I would still like to do. But what I'm doing now, doing it on my own terms, the passion and the fulfillment is so much stronger than it would have been if I was employed for somebody's TV station. I remember when I was in high school, I was getting like D's and C's. So teachers already kind of like wrote me off. And I remember there was this one time where in an English class we had to write about one of our greatest experiences. And I wrote a paper about how I started my own blog and how I built the blog to a point, a sports blog, and how I built the sports blog to a point where I was interviewing NBA players. Now, this is a high school kid. It's like 15, 16. I'm coming into a class. I'm goofing off. I'm acting like the class clown. I'm getting a D in the class. Imagine what the teacher is thinking. And then she reads this paper, like, what? Interviewing NBA players. Goes on YouTube, and she sees that same kid who's getting D's in her class who, like, is being disruptive, et cetera, et cetera. And it tells you a lot about society, or at least it tells you a lot about those people who never liked school. I feel like that's just not the environment for them to succeed. Did you ever feel like that you were put in an environment that you just couldn't succeed in?
Yes, absolutely. I think that happens far too often just because of how the school system is set up. And that makes me think of something I heard in a podcast that C students hire A students to manage D students.
Yeah.
And, like, it kind of makes sense. Obviously, it's not, like, a written fact or anything, but, like, a lot of the C students were, like, the more open-minded, creative students that grow up to think outside the box and really just take the lid off, take the cap off, and pursue what they truly want to pursue. And I think that's a really cool thing.
Well, I just told you I was a D student, so you saying C students are going to hire me? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
No, not necessarily, but just the idea of it. Like, they were talking in the same podcast about how, like, A students like to have things very structured and kind of be told what to do, which makes them, like, very smart and very successful as a student.
Yeah.
But then there's the other kids that they just recognize from, like, young on that certain things might not be for them. And like I said, that's not true for everything. Like, I was like an A-B student because I knew how to get that done. Like, I knew how to do the bare minimum and still do decent. But I think it's really just thinking outside of the box, thinking creatively. And if you have that instilled in you from a young age, it just makes it easier growing up. Like how you were talking about how you're like 15 interviewing NBA players. When you're a kid, you are so open-minded and you think like the sky is the limit if that's what you were somewhat grew up being told that. And I think kids are just so open-minded and they don't think about the cap. They don't think about, oh, this isn't possible for me. So if you take that same energy into like your young adult life and as you continue growing up, I feel like those are the people that really...
You know what that is though?
What?
It's the imagination. Your imagination is so strong. When you're young, your imagination is so powerful. Mm-hmm. But then reality hits and your imagination starts to like wear and tear, and it's just like it's not as dominant as it used to be. Mm-hmm. So if you're telling somebody, oh, I want to start up a photography production business here in Milwaukee that's going to be one of the largest ones, and that's a goal you're telling another person, they might look at you like, come on, Hetzel, they will honestly tell you you're better off going to college, getting loans, $50,000 in loans and majoring in photography as opposed to investing that into yourself, into your own business. That is bonkers. But we're so programmed to that mindset, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree because I think a lot of people forget that we have now entered the information age where you can basically find and learn anything online. Like, don't get me wrong. Obviously, if you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, very specific careers, you have to go to college.
Teacher.
But there's so many other careers that technically the stereotypical path would be to take a college path. But it's not necessary. Like I always tell, and I'm not putting down photographers that went to school for it in any way, because there's plenty else that you can learn from college as well. But I mean, I always tell people if I'm trying to get people to book shoots with me, do you think they are going to look at my photos and my work or a piece of paper saying that I went to school for it?
Piece of paper saying you went to school for it. No.
Exactly. Like your work is obviously in this specific industry and in a lot of other industries as well. That's going to speak far in bigger volume than a piece of paper saying you went to school for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And people don't understand that. I actually haven't, I went to Illinois State and I haven't completed it yet. I haven't graduated. And I was a journalism major. And part of the reason I didn't graduate is because I continued with that blog up until college, and I was getting internships. I did an internship with, you guys have Fox 6 here in Milwaukee. We have 32 in Chicago. That's one of the biggest news stations in America, like local news stations in America. And none of them were asking me about college. They were just looking at what I was doing with my blog. Like, not a lot of people are out here interviewing NBA players through their own publication, you know? So I was like, okay, if he can do that and design his own publication and connect to these people who are giving him permission to have access into these places, imagine if he just has a badge that says Fox News. This guy could get to the president. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, like, that's the mindset.
Right.
That's the mindset when somebody's hired. They don't give a damn about your college. Like, I moved to Milwaukee because I got a job with Milwaukee PBS. They didn't ask me about my college. I just showed them what I've done in the business. I just showed them what I did as a journalistic entrepreneur, and it's like, that's powerful. If you can do that on your own, you can move waves. If you have a large institution like PBS or Fox, CNN backing you up, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, no, I completely agree. Because, I mean, in the 4 years that I've been taking photography from more of a business aspect, I have not had a single person ask me if I've gone to school for this, or, like, can I see your diploma, or, like, anything like that. Like, they book me because they like my work. And I think that just speaks volumes.
The business aspect. Let's get into the business aspect for. So from a business aspect, what is like an initial investment for aspiring photographer?
That is a really good question. I would say, honestly, it's pretty low. I think it is more about the passion behind it and the want to do it than the equipment and everything that you get. Like, I'll always
Can
tell
you move
people,
this a little closer to you?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll always tell people that, like, people ask me about, like, equipment, what's the best camera to get, all that kind of stuff. I tell people, like, you can go to the store and get the best camera on the market. If you don't learn how to use it, what's the point?
Yeah.
So it's really about, all you need is something simple to begin with, and focus on your craft and your skill set. And then once you can start making a little bit of money, then you reinvest the money you made first into getting better equipment. So, I mean, you could get a decent camera for $600, $700, $800, $900 just to get going. And then once you make more money, you can buy something better. Otherwise, if you have more money to initially invest, then why not get a better camera? Then you don't have to upgrade as quickly. But, I mean, you need a camera, lens, editing equipment, and then the rest just depends on your style as a photographer. Like, personally, I'm a creative portrait photographer. So having good lighting, having a good speed light, things like that is important for me. But it's not necessary for all photographers, depending on what your focus is. Like, is it going to be portraits, families? It could be event photography. It can really be anything. There's a lot of different ways to take a path like this.
So would you say that in the beginning you have to go for that kind of like cheaper clientele because of your cheaper equipment?
Yes and no. I mean, I know people that shoot with like a pretty basic beginner camera, and they're charging a decent amount. I really think it's more about your business motto a lot of the time. But I mean, to a certain extent, the quality of your work is what people are ultimately going to be paying for. So, like, yeah, if you obviously have a camera that's not like super sharp, you can't blow up big images that people might want to print, then yes, obviously they're not going to want to pay you or might not book you for that reason. But it all depends what you're trying to do with it.
What do you mean business model? What's your business model?
So I've learned throughout my 4 years of trial and error as a photographer that people will come to you for what you're good at and for what you kind of advertise and put out there. So like I mentioned, I consider myself a creative portrait photography, but I'll still do newborns, couples, engagements, families, really whatever comes my way, I'll try. But if you consistently post about like doing event photography, even though you don't like it, people are going to keep hitting you up for that. So I want to do creative portraits. So even though I do all those other types of photography, most of what I post and put on my social media is creative portrait photography, because that's what I want people primarily to hit me up for, so I can grow in that area. So your business model is kind of like what you're aiming for, what you're going for. And I also tell people all the time, like, don't be scared to say no. Like, if someone hits you up for a project that you're genuinely not interested in, you don't have to take it. Like, you can say, hey, sorry, but that's not my area of expertise. Or I'm just not interested in pursuing that area of photography. And then, and that's that. Or you can refer them to someone else that can do that.
What's an example of an area of expertise that you might not want to dabble into right now?
Personally, for me, like big video projects, like I'm trying to start getting into like smaller video projects, or just like certain styles of photography that just aren't really my thing. And like, I always think about it as like every picture that I take, my name is attached to because I took that photo. So if I did this shoot for somebody and then they posted the pictures and tagged me as the photographer, would I be proud to have my name attached to it? And if I wouldn't be, then I'm not going to do that type of shoot. So I think just what you focus on grows. So you want to focus on the area in your business that you want to grow.
It's kind of like with me in this podcast, I want to focus on Milwaukee entrepreneurs. So people who are in that circle, in that niche, they watch the show. The Milwaukee area has 1 million people in the metropolitan area, like the greater Milwaukee area. Out of that 1 million, there has to be like 50,000 to 100,000 aspiring or current entrepreneurs who are interested in hearing from other entrepreneurs. So that makes perfect sense with that business, with the business model. Who helped you come up with that? Did you read anything to come up with that business model? Any books you read?
Yeah, I have read a lot of books and listened to a lot of podcasts throughout my time becoming a photographer and becoming an entrepreneur. And I wouldn't say I pulled it from anything specific. I just think a lot about how the laws of success are universal. So like no matter what industry or area you're looking to create success in, a lot of the laws to get there are going to be similar. Like, you have to be consistent no matter what you're doing. Like, whether you're trying to become a photographer, you're trying to work out, you're trying to be healthier, like, whatever it is, like, you have to be consistent. So I think it's just kind of like the general laws of success in getting to where you want to be kind of just automatically reinforce that kind of mindset and theory.
And then once you have that, like, niche of people who know exactly it is that you do, then you can kind of play around with, like, differences and then experiment. I read a book called Start With Why.
I read that.
You've read that? In this, yep. And a lot of entrepreneurs, they design their business model around the idea of starting with why you created your business. So let's say I created this podcast because I want to inspire people to go for what makes them happy. Obviously, you're on this podcast. You're talking about your passion, and you're speaking about it very passionately, and that exuberates off of the camera, and people can see that, you know? So people who are addicted to that feeling of finding themselves and becoming the best version of themselves, when they watch this podcast, they're going to see that excitement coming off of you as you're speaking about your passion. And then it makes them just more hungry to go 10 times harder at their passion. And if they don't have one yet, it makes them hungry to find one, you know? And people who are into watching that, they'll find this podcast, and it's just about that consistency of me just continuing to push out episodes and interview entrepreneurs, and an audience will come, you know?
Yeah, I completely agree. Not only start with why, also start with the end in mind. And then another thing I like to kind of think about a lot is, I'm sorry, I just completely lost my train of thought. Where was I going with that? It was really good. I'm sorry.
Happens to the best of us, girl.
Yeah. No, I was just thinking, because, I've read the book Start With Why, and I think it's really important to have have a why behind your passion and like why you're doing it, because that's why a lot of entrepreneurs, creatives, and like people that like to hustle get burnt out, because like they have this idea of like where they've seen other people create success, and they want the success for themselves, but they don't have the same passion behind why they're doing it. So they're just doing it to chase like the mindset of, oh, I want to be rich, I want to create success in this area. But then 2, 3, 4 years later, they get burnt out because they're not actually passionate about it, and they actually really don't care about it that much.
I think it even takes more like 2, 3, 4 months later. It does not take years. If you're not passionate about something and you really put in the time, you'll expose yourself in a couple of months. It doesn't even take years.
Yes, I think it's important to have that passion behind it. And then kind of, going back to what we were talking about before, and like kind of working backwards from where you want to be. I think that's just really important to think about, because so many people really think that they want something. But like, I mean, think about the end result. Like if you consistently work towards what you think you want right now, where will that take you? And then think, is that really what you want? And if it is, that's great. Keep pursuing that. But if it's not, then you might want to back up, look at the bigger picture again, and kind of go back to the drawing board.
No, I feel that.
Yeah.
Is passion what drives you?
To a certain extent, yeah, absolutely. I think it's important to have passion behind what you do. But also it's a lot more than that. I mean, passion's only going to take you so far. At the end of the day, things are going to get hard. You're going to feel lazy, that you might not want to do things on certain days. And it's really going to be that consistency and dedication, showing up when you don't feel like showing up, that is going to take you to the next level. If you're not willing to follow through on what you said you're going to do at the end of the day, then you're not really ever going to get anywhere. Like, you have to be willing to show up for yourself on the bad days, on the hard days, on the days everyone else is staying home because it's raining outside. Like, you have to show up because you said you were gonna. Otherwise, you're going to be running in circles for a long time.
I feel like children create a sense of purpose. That's why you see adults and parents, like, they might be going through so much, but they can still get up and go to work in the morning, make breakfast for the kids, take them to school, pick them up from school, make dinner, and all. Like, their life, in their personal life, is they, like, so many needs aren't being met in their personal life, and they're very unhappy, but they're still getting it done. And I feel like the children are that passion, that purpose. So if you can just watch a parent and see how they operate their life and how they use their children and as their fuel, if you can kind of just, well, you can't force yourself to do it. It has to happen naturally. Just like you come across something that you just love so much, like a child, like it's your child, you know, and you treat it as such, even though you don't feel like getting up and working in the morning. Oh, I got to do this for Hetzel Productions because, all right, maybe if I don't respond to this client and get this gig, they might tell somebody, oh, Hetzel Productions, she's not serious, don't go to her, and it's just word of the mouth, and it creates a bad reputation. You know?
Yeah, and that is super important, and like in a way that kind of did happen to me one time, and it can be frustrating where I think I was on a vacation and I was like in an area where I didn't get really good reception. And it took me like 2 days to respond to someone's message, and by that time they already found someone else to book with and work with. So like, yeah, the speed at what you work at is going to make a big difference, like especially depending on the industry that you're in. So yeah, you want to be responsive, and at the end of the day, that goes back to like you needing to be passionate about it, because like part of me could have just been like, oh, whatever, I was on vacation, lost out on this one. But then if you continue having that mindset throughout running your business, you're not going to grow at the rate that you probably want to grow.
And I'll tell you this, that's one of my biggest pet peeves, when like I need an entrepreneur for somebody and I'm trying to connect with them, and I hit them up and I see they read my message and didn't respond. It's like, what are you doing? Like, do you not want customers? Even at the very least, just like what you said, say I'm not interested in this project. And like that just like looks so bad on your part, you know?
Right. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think communication's super important. I like try to be the best communicator that I can. But yeah, it's first of all just a respect thing. Like, just like say, hey, like, sorry, I'm not interested, or like same thing. Even like if I share my prices with somebody, sometimes someone will just not respond. which I get. That's part of being an entrepreneur, part of the business. But it would just be so nice if people could just be like, hey, I'm not interested. Thank you for your time, though, rather than
I
just
think
like
I think they
you.
do that because they're trying to like weigh their options.
Sometimes you never get a hit back. And it's like, okay. And I get, like, if my prices are too, I totally get that. I don't want people to spend money that they don't have.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's just like closing that communication gap is important.
What is the most annoying thing that you've had to endure as a photographer? It was very annoying that it made you kind of want to quit, but you had to hold on and keep pushing.
Sure, great question. So I think this goes back to the beginning and to when I was not as proficient in running my business. I didn't really know what I was doing, but it was cancellations. I would have people cancel, people no-show, but that was like back in the beginning. Since I have very much so changed my business motto, you have to have a deposit. I'm not going to book less than 24 hours in advance. Like, I've put business policies in place to avoid getting cancellations and no-shows, and now it's very rare that I get a cancellation or no-show. But in the beginning, I didn't understand. But when I didn't understand, I think I think it's important. One of my mentors taught me this a long time ago, that look at people that are where you want to be within the industry you want to be and do what they do. So then when I had that happening, I'd like look at other photographers, network with other photographers and be like, hey, how are you avoiding cancellations? And listen to them, see what they did and learn from their mistakes so that you don't have to keep doing that and figuring it out yourself. And I think sometimes a lot of entrepreneurs forget that in most entrepreneurial places and fields, niches, a lot of other people have done it already. So a lot of people are taking like all this pressure on their shoulders to think that they need to figure out everything on their own, when in reality so many other people have done it. Learn from them, read books, listen to podcasts, read articles, and the number one that I think people forget about is reach out to them and network. Like, people think these entrepreneurs and people above them are like so untouchable, but in a lot of cases they are happy to work with you to answer your questions. Winners know that there's always room for more winners.
Absolutely.
It's not a comparison game. It's not a competition. Like, if you are
especially nowadays, maybe back in the pre-internet era, it was a little bit of a competition.
Right. Like in the industrial age, like, yes, everything was competition. I get that. But in the information age, like in most cases, like when I reach out and talk to other entrepreneurs and successful people, it's very rare that I get like a cold shoulder if I ask a question or like someone that like doesn't want to talk to me. Like, most people are very open.
Very open.
And like they want to bring people to the top. Like, there is so much money out there to be made. Go get your bag. Like, make your money.
I remember when I was in high school, when I was doing the blog, and just imagine like the average high school boy, like they're obsessed with the NBA. And then here I am with my own blog interviewing NBA players, and my classmates are watching this. They're like, bro, how are you? This is sick. How did you get that? I literally just found somebody who does it, and I asked him how he got the connection.
Yeah.
And he told me, oh, yeah, okay, I hit this person up at the Chicago Bulls, and she told me to go to this person. And then that's how it was done.
Yeah.
People don't realize how attainable these things are. Like you said, like these people of high status, they just feel like they're so unreachable. But it's not the case at all.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree. I think in a lot of cases, it's not what you know, but who you know. Like, there are so many opportunities, even just in life and in my photography business, that it had nothing to do with me actually being a photographer, but more so with the people that connected me as a photographer to an opportunity. Like, someone was looking for a photographer, they knew me, they threw my name out there, and boom, there was an awesome opportunity. So it's important to network. It really is, because having network and connections can take you to places that you could never imagine. Like, all it takes is one conversation with one person to completely change the trajectory of your life.
I feel like those are the people who it's really just networking is key. If you pay attention, when I went to college, and all of the people who've graduated at this point, the ones, because a ton of them don't have jobs still, you know, they're like, you went to college and you're working at Kohl's, like, that's crazy, but that's the society we live in. But if you pay attention to the ones who have used their college degree and were able to get jobs right away from out of college, is the people who were connected, who were getting connected in college and were networking and like not just partying and turning up and going to class, you know, and just doing this college cycle, party, turn up, go to class, take your finals, and then in 4 years you graduate. Like, no, like they had a plan for after college. So they were connecting with people who were doing internships in their field. They were getting that done. And then once they graduated, because they have such a plethora of a resume, a plethora of things on their resume, they're more hireable, they're more connected, and they can find a job as opposed to the kids who didn't do that. So college or not, the key is networking. You can go to college, just go there and network. Don't just go to go. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's really networking is the key.
Yeah.
What did you utilize to network and get closer to other photographers in Milwaukee?
A few different things. So mostly social media. Instagram is definitely my most popping, busy platform on social media.
Yeah, I see that. You have like 3,000 on Hetzel Productions, right?
No, not quite. I'm about to hit 2.
Oh, 2. Okay, that's not bad.
I'm right under 2. But yeah, I would say Instagram. I literally book probably like 70% of my shoots through Instagram. A lot of people connect with me on there. I've had multiple people from out of town that were coming to Milwaukee just for the weekend hit me up.
Oh, wow.
Because they see like right in my bio that I'm a Milwaukee photographer, that I have a studio. So I try to make myself like very easy to reach. I use a lot of Milwaukee hashtags. So that like Milwaukee photographers, so that if people from out of town are looking for a photographer, I'm easy to reach on social media. And then networking events. I love going to networking events. In the beginning, I went to like a lot of photo meetups, and that is initially how I met a lot of like the Milwaukee creative community. And then just kind of in a way like pursuing people too, like going out of your way to like see, like if you see a cool photo, who took it, following that person, seeing how other people run their businesses, learning from them. There's so much to be learned from other people, and I think people forget that so much. So just keeping my eyes open, keeping my ears open, even at work. Like I read one time how entrepreneurs and small business owners, they can be like really timid and scared to claim themselves as a business owner in the beginning. Like I still remember the first time that someone asked me how much to take pictures, and I was like, you want to pay me to do this?
What?
And I was like this was like in the beginning, like right out of high school, when like I didn't think of it as potentially being like a way to make money. So for the longest, like literally.
Wait, was this before you started promoting yourself as a photographer? Okay.
Yeah, this was like before Hetzel Productions was even a thing, before I had a name or an Instagram for any of this. And someone like asked me just from, I think it was like one of my mom's friends or something, like, hey, can you take my daughter's senior pictures or something? And I was like, like I'm pretty sure my first shoot, I charged them $40 an hour.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. And that's not including the time editing, the equipment that I had to use.
Is that cheap?
Yeah.
Oh.
that's a deal.
I mean, yeah, that's just, isn't that reasonable though? Because it's your first shoot.
Exactly. Like that's how I got started. But for like the first 2 years, like people would be like, so you're a photographer? And I'd be kind of like hesitant to just be like, yeah. And I was a little like, yeah, kind of, like I'm learning. But then in a book I was reading how like any successful business owner, they go around promoting themselves. They go to the gas station like, hey, you ever been to my restaurant? So like as a small business owner, as an entrepreneur coming up, why wouldn't you do the same thing? Like if you're out and about and you hear someone talking like that they might need a photographer, don't be scared to bring your name up and hand out your business card and embody that you are an entrepreneur and you are a business owner, even if you're not where you want to be yet. You can't get there if you don't manifest and start putting in the actions to actually get there. So I think it's just like embodying that this is who you are and what you want to be, and networking, telling people about it. Like I've literally gotten clients in grocery stores, at my job, like from a friend of a friend referring somebody, from someone seeing that I was tagged as their photographer on Facebook, Instagram. Like you never know how people are going to reach you. So I feel like you just want to be prepared at all times. Because if you're prepared and an opportunity arises, then you can take full advantage and make the most of it. Where if you're not prepared and an opportunity arises, then it's a missed opportunity that could have taken you to the next level.
Has there ever been anybody that you ever, when you were early photographer, did you ever do a shoot, you sent people their pictures back and they were like, this shit trash? Did that ever happen to you?
I wouldn't say anyone's ever done that to like that extent, like that blatantly, I guess. But I mean, there have been a few times where like someone wasn't really happy with how photos turned out. And I completely understand that. I didn't really take offense to it. I tried my best to fix it. But the thing about photography and any like creative entrepreneurial endeavor is it is what you make it. Like you put your own style and your own spin on it. There's no like blueprint to an entrepreneurial business as it needs to be done this way. You get to choose how you run your business and what expectations are to come of it. So I've like had people like book with me, and even though I post all my work and they see my editing style, I edit them similarly to how I edit all my other shoots, and they didn't like how I edited them. And like I get that they didn't like it. It's not like I was offended by it or anything. I just like re-edited them in a way that they like them edited. And then I've had a few other complications come up, and I found that most often complications come up when you twist your business plan or your business motto. So like for example, I had this shoot one time with somebody. They booked in less than 24 hours, which I usually don't do. I didn't have them book with a deposit since it was such a short notice. And then they wanted their photos edited in like 3 days, and usually it's a week. And at that time, like I was just trying to make as much money in the shortest amount of time possible. So I was like, okay, I'll take this challenge on. They showed up late to the shoot because they booked it 24 hours in advance, and I didn't take a deposit for them. When it came to paying, they asked for a discount because, again, I didn't have them book a deposit. And then, like, 2 days after the shoot, they're like, do you have the edits? And they were, like, upset that they weren't done, even though they said that they'd give me 3 days. And all those problems came about because I bent my own business rules. So I do think it's important to set your own standard. Don't let people walk all over you. Like, yes, you're trying to get somewhere and go somewhere, but you still have to have a standard for yourself to set yourself up for success. Like, you don't set yourself up to fail. Set yourself up to success, even if that sometimes means saying no to an opportunity that could make you some money. Sometimes it's not worth it. Sometimes
are there times when you could break those rules a little bit?
Sometimes. But I'm now going forward, I make it very clear to somebody. Like, I'll like talk it out, make sure we're all both on the same page, so that there is no room for misinterpretations or mistakes or a bad business experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I ask because I know in some countries, I'm Nigerian, and I forgot. I forgot who it was, but this was when I used to work at a hotel. There was this Nigerian guy who came into the hotel, and he was trying to bargain like the rate, but the rate is fixed, especially at a hotel. Like, you have a better chance of going to Target and trying to bargain like the rate of a bag of chips.
Yeah.
But I remember people were like annoyed by him, and they were talking shit about him in the office. And me being a Nigerian from Nigeria, I told him, I was like, that's just how he's probably just like new here in America, and that's just how it is in Africa. I don't know about all of Africa, but in Nigeria, that's just how it is. Like, prices aren't set. So it's very normal for you to walk into a store and bargain the price of a whatever it is that you're buying with the merchant, with the seller.
Yeah.
And that's just not how it is here in America.
Yeah.
Do you think that's, I feel like there could be a good thing about that, though, being able to like bargain your prices with your clientele, because people know, okay, Hetzel she's more negotiable with her prices, and won't that bring more people to you, or do I have it wrong? Like, word of the mouth, wouldn't people tell their friends like, oh yeah, Hetzel, she has really good prices, she takes really good pictures, and she will negotiate with you, et cetera, et cetera. Do you not think that could help you in the long run?
I think yes and no. It depends how you look at it, and kind of goes back to your business motto. So me personally, I have like a minimum that it'd be worth doing a job for, and I'm not gonna negotiate that price because then I just don't feel like it's worth my time. But to a certain extent, it can be. It gets kind of tricky. Personally, I like to just set a standard because I don't want someone doing a shoot and I gave them a good price and then they're going around telling everyone and now I got to give everyone a discounted shoot. So that can, in a way, I guess, work against you as well. And I also wouldn't want people to view my business as like false advertising. Like if I did the same shoot for someone and the same shoot for another person and that this person finds out they paid more and they're like wondering why they paid more. Like I don't want there to be any like gray area, I guess, as a business owner. Where I think like being in like a seller and merchant type of business or like sales or something like that, that's like a lot more common to negotiate because then it's the seller like deciding like, is getting this sale worth taking a little less money versus them just walking and not buying at all. And I mean, I don't know, any photographer could apply that to their business. Like, especially in the beginning, I was much more fluid with my prices because, like, I just wanted to get that experience so that I could get better while making some money along the way. So in the beginning, yes, but now I feel like I've grown my skill set to a high enough standard where I know what I'm doing. I know how to run my business. I know how to take pictures. I know the quality that I bring and the equipment that I bring. So there is going to be at least a minimum standard that at this point it's just not worth me doing it for less than my like standard price, if that makes sense.
I remember when I was at the mall one time and this big shot photographer, she came up to me and she said, "You know what, kid? I like your look. I'm willing to pay you $500 million to model for me." And then I had to tell her that's not enough money, so I ended up not modeling for her. But is there any? Do you take pictures of any models yourself? Is that something that you do?
I do. Yeah, I work with models hit you up? A lot. Yep. Models will hit me up, and that is actually one of the situations where I will negotiate pricing because I think about it the same way that they would think about me. Is they're an experienced model, and they know what they're bringing. So you negotiate the prices
for the models, but nobody else.
In a way, yes, because an experienced model knows what they're bringing to the table. Okay. I don't need to coach them on how to pose. They're very natural in front of the camera. Things run much more efficiently. They just know what they're doing. So it makes my job a lot easier. Also with experienced models, if they post my pictures, it's going to give me a lot of exposure because they most likely have a lot of followers as well. And then I think about it from their perspective as a model. Just like I think about it with people that aren't models, like I'm a photographer that knows what I'm bringing to the table. It's the same thing from them. If they're a very experienced model, they've been doing this for a long time, they know what they're bringing to the table. So they're not necessarily going to want to pay a photographer as much as if they were just someone that wasn't into modeling. So sometimes I will do discounted prices for experienced models just because it's fun to work with people that have experience and have a bigger vision for their shoot versus just like, hey, I want to shoot. And like, okay, what do you want to shoot? And they're like, I don't know.
Is there a lot more pressure working with them, though, because they know the specifics, and I'm sure they're a lot more conscious of the look?
No, I would say it's less pressure, honestly.
How so?
Because I think experienced models, they've been in the industry. They know how things work. And if they're comfortable enough to hit me up and work with me and know that the work that I bring, I think things just run really smoothly. I also love working with models because of the vision that they have, kind of like I just said. A lot of people will hit me up for shoots and like they know they want pictures, but they don't really know how they want them to look. They don't know like what lighting style they want or how the backdrop is gonna look. Where a model will be like, they can like bring up a concept on like Pinterest or an example.
It's two creatives working together as opposed to like one creative doing something just for someone else.
Yeah.
And creating someone for someone else. Creating something for someone else,
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say like some of my most like successful and best shoots were like very planned shoots where it was like two creatives with a very specific vision that we were able to bring to life. Because like think about like if you know where you're going, you're going to get there a lot faster. Versus if you have no idea what you're doing or where you're going, it's going to take more time. It's going to be sloppier. So when you have like a clean creative vision and you're both working towards that, like the results are just exponentially better than just like, hey, let's go here and shoot this and see what we get. Like, and of course I've gotten excellent things off like candid shoots and things that weren't as planned. But I found in most cases, the more planned shoots tend to be the better ones.
Have you ever done have you ever modeled yourself for some of your shoots?
Yeah.
How was that?
Yeah, it's super fun. That's another thing that's fun about being in the photography business and like working with other photography entrepreneurs in Milwaukee, is we model for each other.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have a ton of photography friends that I've modeled for before. And I think it also really helps being in front of the camera as a model.
To understand not what they go through, but to try to get an understanding of what they would like.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, just being on the opposite side of the lens gives me like an idea of like how it feels. So then as a photographer, I know how to coach them better and make them feel more comfortable, and just have an idea of where they're coming from. Because some photographers are like, they're a photographer and they are camera shy. How do
you take your photos when you're taking photos of models? Because I've seen like some of like the photography shoots, and they be looking cool as hell, and they be taking the pictures really fast, and then the model's like switching his position like hella fast as you're taking the picture. I'm like, oh my god, that's real cool.
Yeah.
Do you have to take it fast like that?
It depends on the model. Like, I definitely have, like, if I'm working with a more experienced model, or they do that, where literally
I want to do that so bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a friend, Zay, that's really good at that, where I can literally, like, take a picture and he'll hear the click, and then he just automatically knows, like, there's no reason to take two things of the same exact picture unless someone blinked or something. So, like, he'll know once he hears the click, he changes poses, like,
exactly.
Really
so you think that's why they do it? The click, it makes it smoother, and then, because just when I was watching that, there was just something about that like click that it looks like it literally is kind of like being possessed. Like click, change positions. Yeah. Click, change positions. It's kind of raw. It's very synchronized. It's like the model and the photographer and like in their own world in sync. Yeah. Very, very neat.
Yeah, it is neat because, I mean, with a less experienced model or someone that doesn't even model, like they just need like senior pictures or something, they don't necessarily know like the click means that picture's over. So that's like when you have to coach them more and be like, okay, let's try this. And there's nothing wrong with that. So
the inexperienced guys, they like click, they do the first position, they take the shot, and then they just stand there.
A lot of people do.
Okay, so then it throws off like the little flow.
Yeah.
Got you.
A lot of people do because they don't know. Like, and I mean, with groups, like I'll take a few pictures in the same pose because one person might have blinked or something. But yeah, it is fun to work with experienced people that just know and you can really.
When you meet a male model, what was their desire for getting into modeling? What is the average answer you get?
I feel like honestly most people and at least especially Milwaukee, they do it kind of for fun. Okay. Like it's like my friend Zay I was just talking about. We went to high school together, and then after that's when I got involved in photography, and he would model for me just for fun.
Really?
And I would like come up with concepts and be like, hey, do you want to shoot this concept with me? And like he was always down. And once other people started seeing my work of him, then other people started hitting him up to model for them. And just by, like, again, going back to networking and how important it is to talk to other people, he's become, like, a pretty well-known Milwaukee model just because he started working with me, and then other people started working with him. So I think a lot of people get into it just for fun. It's fun to have your picture taken. A lot of people get into it because they want to make money doing it. Some people get into it because they want to meet people and travel while doing it. So I think people have a lot of different reasons for it. And then there's a lot of people, not necessarily models, but a lot of people just want social media content. Like, I know a lot of people hit me up. They're not even entrepreneurs or anything. They're just working, like, a typical job.
That's whack.
They just want,
but it makes you money,
birthday pictures. Like, it's their birthday.
Okay,
and they
birthday
want a photo
pictures are different,
yeah. Or they want to do a shoot with their girlfriend.
I thought you meant, like, social media content. Just
that, too.
That's whack.
I do shoots like that all the time.
But it makes you money,
they just want creative shots. And I'm like, those are my favorite types of shoots when it's literally just a creative shoot, yeah.
How come?
Because it's the possibilities are endless. They don't have like a super specific agenda. It's just like they have this idea.
So you, as the photographer, gets more creative freedom.
Yes, exactly. Yep, absolutely. So those can really be a lot of fun.
Hetzel, 2 more things before I close this out. What is your goal with Hetzel Productions in the next 10 years? Where would you like to see it?
Sure. So that my photography goal with Hetzel Production ties in a lot to my life goals. One of my like biggest life goals is I want to live life truly on my own means. I want to be able to do what I want when I want. And a big part of that is going to come down with creating financial independence. And the average entrepreneur, CEO, millionaire has 5 to 7 business ventures where they're making money off of them. And this is one of them, and this one is like my passion project, I guess you call it. So I don't plan on making the most amount of money
from this
through photography, but it's something that I truly enjoy doing, and I want to carry that throughout my life. So I guess my end goal would be to be able to provide my services for free or a very discounted price when I've created success in other areas that I no longer have to rely on making money through photography. So down the line, my goal is to be able to like take senior pictures for kids that can't afford to get senior pictures taken, to teach other photographers that were the same kid coming out of high school that had no idea what they wanted to do with their life, but they have an interest in photography, and show them that it is possible to make this dream a reality. And really just give back. Like, I want this to be my passion project while achieving much bigger success financially and within freedom in other areas. Another big goal of mine is to create more female entrepreneurs. Only about 23% of entrepreneurs are female, and I want to see more, because I mean, when I go to like networking events and stuff, a lot of the times it is a very male-dominated area, and I want to change that. I want women and girls to know that like they can do it too. Like, I am a very independent person. I don't like relying on other people for anything, and I don't want to have to do that in the future, and I want to like embody and help other women embrace that as well, and just become their own boss.
Why do you think women why don't you think more women are prone to get into entrepreneurship?
I think it is a combination of a few things. I think number one, it's first like the stereotypical way of life that we're still trying to put in the past, that the man is the leader of the house and he's going to take on the more dominant role in money making and all that type of thing. On top of, I also was reading in a book that women are much less likely to pursue like jargon terms and things they don't completely understand, while men are a lot more willing to kind of like jump and hope for the best and just send it and just do it. And women they're much more calculated a lot of the times. So they're going to do
if
less
something doesn't make sense,
Which that's not a bad thing. It's good to be calculated.
By nature, yeah.
But at some point you have to take the lid off and accept that you are going to fail, but it requires failure to create success. And I think if more women can understand that, and we can create a better networking community in Milwaukee to bring other women aboard that are interested but don't know how to take the first step, I think that would be awesome.
Hetzel, you are dope. You are the woman. You are extremely inspiring. I love to hear from you. I love to talk to you. Where can the people follow you on social media?
Sure. So, like I mentioned before, my biggest platform is going to be Instagram, Hetzel Productions, Hetzel like pretzel. That's what I always tell people because they'll forget. So Hetzel Productions. I also have it on Facebook, and I'm currently in the process of creating my logo. So once I have that done, I'll have my website up and running as well.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on the Greatly Destined podcast, Hetzel. You are deeply appreciated. Hope I can have you here another time so we can talk entrepreneurship and whatever we could talk about. Thanks so much again for coming on the show. I really do appreciate it. And thank you guys for watching the Greatly Destined podcast, episode 5. See you guys next time.
Rocky!